Section 34 is our first introduction to another hugely influential person within the entire history of our church, and his name is Orson Pratt. There's a picture of Orson when he's a little bit younger. Section 34 is directed to Orson, who obviously is related to Parley P. Pratt. He's Parley's little brother. And after Parley Pratt is converted and baptized, he goes and finds his brother and preaches the gospel to his brother, who's all of 19 years old, by the way, at this time. And Orson Pratt quickly is baptized and joins the church and is going to become an influential member. Here's Orson later on in his life. He becomes an original member of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles and serves in that quorum through his entire life. He becomes one of the great writers and theologians within this church, writing books and books about him, by the way. He is this one over here, an interesting account of several remarkable visions, is one of the primary sources for the first vision of Joseph Smith. Not only will Orson Pratt become an apostle and a mighty missionary and a great leader within the church, he is one of the first companies to come into the Salt Lake Valley. As a matter of fact, Orson Pratt is the first person in the Salt Lake Valley in the Pioneer Company. He comes into Salt Lake on July 21st of 1847, 3 days ahead of Brigham Young's company, and he's the first to scout out the valley for the saints. Orson Pratt was kind of a Renaissance man. Not only was he a pioneer and a scout, but he was a theologian. He was a self-taught astronomer. He was a mathematician. He was just, he was just one of those kind of guys who could do everything. As well, when he gets here to the Salt Lake Valley, this is one of my favorites. He had an observatory, a scientific observatory, right there on Temple Square. You can see right here the temple in the background, the beautiful Salt Lake Temple, and then Orson Pratt's kind of his shack thing here that he puts up to observe the stars. And one other notable thing about Orson Pratt is he's going to be the one to end up putting the Book of Mormon into chapter and verse. And for you students of the Doctrine and Covenants, in 1876, Orson Pratt will probably have more influence on the Doctrine and Covenants than any other person other than Joseph Smith. He adds dozens of sections into the Doctrine and Covenants under the direction of Brigham Young. A lot of the revelations of Joseph Smith that we just take for granted that weren't there originally, even things as simple as section 13, the words of John the Baptist spoken to Joseph and Oliver. That was added in there in 1876 by Orson Pratt. Here he is, baptized at 19 years old, and after he was baptized, when he was on his 19th birthday, he says this, quote, "I traveled westward over 200 miles to see Joseph Smith the prophet. I found him in Fayette, Seneca County, New York, residing at the house of a Mr. Whitmer. I soon became intimately acquainted with this good man, and by my request on the 4th of November of 1830, the prophet Joseph inquired of the Lord for me, and he received the revelation," which is now section 34 of the Doctrine and Covenants.